What up, guys and girls? It is Bobby.
And Sean.
We're back for volume three of We're Back.
No, this "we're back" should be like a Christmas "we're back." Like this
Okay.
will not even be part of the volume. It's just a special holiday edition.
Oh, special holiday. Okay, cool. Well, we're here for our holiday edition of the Cronus Cast. Hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas and getting ready for the new year. What are you up to, Sean? Oh, I guess we should lead off with 10,000. As we mentioned in the last episode, we are now sponsored by the apparel company 10,000. Use the code CronusFit15 for 15% off. They're doing a crazy holiday sale right now where they're giving you like a free shirt if you order $75 worth of stuff, and then you get like free or like reduced prices right now. So it's a pretty good sale. I actually stocked up on a bunch of stuff. Got a shirt, some socks, shorts, another hoodie. So definitely check it out if you guys haven't yet.
Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about that because I've spent the last couple of weeks running in their interval shorts, and I restocked. So now I have 3 sets of them: 2 dark blue and 1 black. And I think we talked about it before. You could probably get away in regiment wearing these shorts. But they are now my go-to running shorts. I used to run like exclusively in my Ranger panties or my Sophies, and now it's just these. They're 5-inch inseam. They've got like a slight liner in them. They hug your thighs if you have some definition in them. You don't have to be like jacked in order to have like a nice fitting short, but they are my favorite shorts now. And then I did a squat workout in I'll have to look up the short name, but it's one of their other like fitness, kind of functional fitness shorts, and they're super, super comfortable. So I'm really loving their shorts they got. I've tried out their socks now for 3 runs, and they're very comfortable, and they're fashionable too, with a very subdued logo. So I love the gear thus far, and I think I'll be running in these all the way through the Ironman training for sure.
Definitely. So, like I said, use the code CronusFit15 for an additional 15% off, and then check out their holiday sales. A lot of stuff at a pretty good price compared to the rest of the year.
Yeah, and you look cool in it. Like I know last time I seemed to come off like a boomer or an individual that was very old. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can tell I'm very cool. I've got a backwards hat on now. And between that and my 10,000 gear, I would say that, I'm as good looking as I was when I was 25, 26, in what would be then the prime probably of some of my running. So, I'm young, I'm hip, guys. I listen to Apple Hits music yesterday working out. Heard a lot of music I've never heard of before, but, grooved, I think is the correct word to it, in the gym. It was pretty dope AF, Liddy, and I'm really excited because it's the fetch season. So, like don't hate me because I don't like Tesla.
How many pseudo trendy terms can you throw in one statement? Because those are like varying decades right now. Kind of age yourself again with fetch.
I'll be really honest. That was the most I could think of. Even if I were to dedicate 5 minutes, I wouldn't come up with any more than that.
I think isn't fetch from like the 90s? No, fetch is from Mean
It's
Girls.
from Mean Girls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Stop
yeah.
trying to make fetch cool, Gretchen.
Still aging yourself.
Absolutely. Speaking of aging myself, I went back. I had to take about 2 months off from working out in order to focus on academics, because this job cycle between your 2.0 and 3.0 year is the most important coming out of law school. It's essentially what will be your first employer with a 99% guarantee, so long as you really don't piss off a partner. And so it's really important what your grades are going into on-campus interviews or early interview week. Getting back into fitness, I went and started squatting again. I've been running real heavily, trying to get miles up now. And holy shit, man, I am old. I feel really weird because it was just a couple years ago at Carson. Dan and I would be on the assault bike at Garcia. We'd see someone doing some awful squats at 315, thinking they were the shit. he and I would go over there in running shoes, and without warming up, being able to knock out 5 at 315 on a back squat, I wouldn't feel anything afterwards. I'd be like, okay, that was a hard push, but I did a couple sets of 315 the other day, and I felt like my groin and my hamstring were about to fall off. I had to legitimately stop squatting or doing legs at that point for the workout because I just felt like this awful sensation that I don't ever recall feeling in my, mid 20s. So doctor, what is wrong with me? Do I need to be prescribed something? Do I have tiny heart syndrome? What the fuck is wrong with me at 31, almost 32?
Yeah, I'll say that it's definitely I've appreciated that getting older is more difficult working out, put it that way. Even like in med school, I was working out pretty hard for a little bit, for a couple of years, like training out pretty hard to try and make my run across the regionals. Even then, like I felt like was able to train harder back then, and that was like at 27 compared with now at 30. It hurts a lot more training for sure.
Sorry, I was opening up the blinds so I get some natural light in here.
But yeah, I
Dude,
think it's
yeah,
definitely a component of like just getting older. It takes a little bit longer for your body to warm up. All the years of abuse are starting to add up and accumulate, especially in your joints and some of your muscles, your ligaments. It's just a little more difficult to get going. That's why recovery and proper warm up is becoming more and more important because back in the day, when you're in our in our low 20s, you could just like roll right into workout, no need to warm up, your body was ready to go. But now it definitely requires a little bit more thought.
It was great. I've got so much more respect for those first sergeants out there, the sergeants major and regiment that have maintained essentially that same physical prowess that they had when they were, 19 to 22 coming into regiment, or some of the individuals that are in other special operations units that are there at 38 to 40 and doing it day in and day out. Like I can't imagine the impact that that'll have on them when they're 50 or 60. And I went through Ranger School with a sergeant major, and then I think a captain or a major that was a chaplain in group.
Oh yeah, same
back
thing.
back in 2012, and I mean, I could go through Ranger School right now. It would suck, but it would suck infinitely more when it comes to the physical aspect of it. Because when I went through, I thought, I'll be honest, I thought the physical aspect was not as difficult as we were made to believe, primarily because all the stories about Ranger School being so physically tough and demanding, I think, is promulgated by failures. And so people that failed tend to make it seem like it was this insurmountable obstacle that only a few can overcome. But going back now, if I was 30 to 35, I would be much more inclined to listen to that kind of logic because it is physically so challenging to recover quickly, to be able to get up and sprint and do all that stuff that we took for granted at 22, 23.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't necessarily think that Ranger School is like that tough physically. I mean, like you have to be in really good shape to pass rap week, but like past rap week, like you're not doing, you're not getting graded or being assessed for physical fitness. It's just rather being able to walk with a heavy ruck for long periods of time and not fall out.
Yeah.
Which you can argue that's not exactly fitness. It's just kind of that's like I feel like that's more mental than physical strength. And I think like that being older now, I think having the perspective of like being able to endure more. I think that's why like a lot of older guys that go through Ranger School actually have a huge advantage because, typically when you're older, you've endured more suck and have more shitty situations. So, you're a little bit more resilient at an older age. Whereas like as like a young lieutenant, like you haven't really, had much, developed that much resilience. So I think like from mental, I think Ranger School is a lot more mental than physical.
Yeah. And speaking of that mental aspect, I really didn't think about it again or appreciate this kind of fact, but I would say at least back in 2014, 15, 16, in that era with regiment, most of the Rangers that were going to school usually had a deployment under their belt and had seen combat. And so from that perspective, I could see being at Ranger School in this school-like environment where you're getting these artificial injects that aren't real life, but they're supposed to mimic real life, not being as stressful to that, like, again, that guy coming out of iBullock or that gal coming out of iBullock where all they know is a schoolhouse and they take it so uber serious. um, I did not appreciate the mental side of Ranger School quite as much until, more recently in life, especially, with aging and seeing how, if I went through now, I'd be like, okay, physically it sucks more, but this is a game, this is school. I'm not
Yeah.
going to be thrown off or, totally influenced by some random like variable. Oh, there's one more, casualty on the objective. Okay, we'll figure it out.
Hmm. Yeah, there's definitely something to be said about like being more like a mature individual, having life experience going through these schools, having more success. Definitely, like I've noticed, like when I went there, I remember like the chaplain from like group that was like 40 something years old going through it. Like he was like it sucked. Like I remember talking to him and saying he's like it sucks, but you know it's not that bad. So I wonder, like saying this now, would you go back? Do you think you'd go back right now, do like maybe a phase and recertify? I wonder.
Oh, I used to want that, not so much from the tactical side of the house, because I would say if you're getting ready for company command, being able to brief a platoon op board is not challenging in the slightest, or preparing for a squad stick slaying. Physically, I'd always wanted and advocated for that kind of a validation or a recert for guys that got really fat after they graduated. The individuals that once they finished Ranger School, that was essentially the most fitness that they were going to do in their life. They weren't going to do it again. They got theirs, and they didn't realize that them being out of shape or looking physically unfit, not only to wear the uniform, but to wear the coveted Ranger tab, was just inappropriate at that point. And they were doing it at service, because individuals would look at that and then question the school
Mhm.
and the legitimacy of it. But I think I would go back. I kind of like RASP, but I just don't think the school is big enough to support individuals going back through Florida phase.
Mhm.
And the TDY funds would be exponential, because you got probably like 1,000 to 1,500 Ranger grads every year. So compound that for over a, say, 10 to 15-year period for individuals that have stayed in, that would be almost, you'd have to double or triple the cadre size.
Mhm. True. Yeah, one of our or one of our second year residents at in Madigan, he wants to go to try and do ranger school next year. He's like a prior Marine officer, so he always talks shit. I was on nights with him last month. He'd always talk shit about like IOC being so hard and like ranger school be such a joke. And I was like,
Yeah.
but it's very funny. I hope that'd be great. I think it'd be cool to get the opportunity to go to ranger school as as a physician, because I mean, how many like tabbed physicians have you ever seen walk around besides like the prior service SF dudes?
None. I've never. I remember meeting a tabbed aviator. Found it afterwards. He had been in regiment, and so like I think now whenever I see a tabbed aviator, minus a couple that are like officers that branch transferred into aviation, like after 3 or 4 years, the majority of them were prior enlisted in the 75th. I think that would be awesome. I remember we had a couple Marines, and I've met a couple Marine Corps officers that speak very highly of the challenges for their infantry officers course, as well as the basic school. I tried to go to Triple C at Quantico because they have a required like 20-mile ruck that
Mm-hmm.
all infantry captains have to pass. And I thought that was awesome. Meanwhile, you go to Fort Benning and it's 12 miles. You do it with your small group leader. It's like 35 pounds. You do it around the airfield. It's like a joke because nobody wants to win it. It's just like finish it. It's like the opposite mentality of what I was hoping to get when I went to Triple C. Like
Mm-hmm.
the Marines at least still have that hard charging, full
Mentality.
frontal assault. Yeah, I love that. Like that's the kind of stuff I wish the Army would indoctrinate a little bit more.
Yeah, I think I actually had pretty good discussions with this dude overnight, because we talked a lot about like different training for officers, both in the Army and then the Marines specifically. and how all Marine officers go through TBS, the basic school, so they
Hmm.
all have that shared like mental schema of how to be an officer. Like infantrymen first, so all like Marine officers understand how like the infantry works, because they've gone through that same shared experience in their basic school. Then like compared to into the army, and then you have like the only shared experiences you really get are like pre-commissioning sources where you have like your LDAC. That's the only time you have to like
Do
you
something.
know
Yeah. And even ROTC programs aren't equal. Service academies are not equal. Um, yeah, they used to have Bullock 1 and Bullock 2,
yeah.
and everyone had to go to, I think it might have been at Benning, but it might have been at Knox. And that was your first introduction into the Army and being an officer. And then you went to your branch
Hmm.
specific. But I think they realized that it was a waste for maybe some more like hard charging branches. Like we're taking away opportunities to train on the basics of infantry or armor or maneuver, just so that these individuals can learn like how to fill out a DD 214 kind of paperwork, uh, really boring shit that officers kind of figure out on the job. But I don't know. I just wish if I did everything and I could go and change something about my experiences in the military, I wish it was more difficult for us in general. I wish IVOLIC was more difficult. I wish Triple C was more difficult. I wish being able to commission into maneuver branches was more selective. And like if that means you have 75% of the maneuver officers out there, and you're cutting 25% of the force, like so be it. It needs to be that premier organization and not just something that people just shrug their shoulders at now.
Yeah, but I think it was like you weigh both sides of that coin. You have like the manning aspect, and we have to fill X amount of spots in order to sustain like a modern army. So if you raise that bar, then you kind of drop out some candidates that could fill these spots, right? But at the same time,
Yeah, it. I would say the Army needs to be downsized anyway. I am not at the strategic level. I've never served in the Pentagon. I've been an aide, and it's not like I was sitting in on some secret briefings where we were talking about manning. Like in general, I understand how manning works in the military, and I think you could cut a couple brigades from the Army. To be honest, everyone is just promoting. I think it's a fear mongering culture. You
mm,
have to have these brigades. We have to have a brigade in Germany. We have to have a brigade in Korea. We have to have two brigades. What is it up in Alaska, or a brigade plus in Alaska to ward off the commies? I just think you go down to a trimmer force. The the enlisted soldiers are going to be better because you can be more selective. The officers are going to be better, more selective. We don't have as much like fraud, waste, and abuse with what we're spending. I'm like, if you think that the military doesn't have fraud, waste, and abuse, just look at what Congress has passed and is projected to pass in at least one of the houses with our spending bill and the COVID relief bill. Like, just it's an insane amount of money. And when it comes to our appropriations every other year, you've got so many people lobbying for their specific district to build some random component that none of us will ever see. It's just like, let's get down to a smaller, more elite force that nobody wants to fuck with, instead of TikTok boots and whatever the hell soldiers are doing now on social media, because I'm old.
yeah, I don't know. I hate takeout boots. I think it's kind of hilarious.
No, I think the page is hysterical.
Oh
I
yeah, yeah,
can't stand the soldiers that are being highlighted, because it's just, again, it's doing a disservice to those that you know just shut up and paint and are doing their job day in and day out and aren't trying to capitalize on being an E5, E6, or an O4 in the military.
yeah. I mean, it's tough because it's like I can see both sides of the coin, especially from like a strategic level in terms of once you like downsize, especially like the government. I feel like if you once you give something up, you don't give it back. You don't get it back. So like especially with the military, that budget, once you give some dollars back or some manning back to like decrease, you're not going to get it back in the future. And especially talk about like the military industrial complex. I'm sure that heavily weighs into how much defense budget is.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane what we spend in our military compared to other modern industrial nations. we're further removed from Russia than most of, our allied partners in Europe. I think Russia probably has a good military. Anyone that's been in has seen briefs on their capabilities. The same with China, and it's usually like, oh my God, we're showing them their most like elite unit, so everyone has to be scared that this is going to be every single person that you're going to come across if we were to ever fight those two countries. And just like the American Army, you know exactly, who your studs are and who your duds are. So I think no modern country, and I think there's a stat out there like no country with a McDonald's has ever gone to war with another with a McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we'll ever go to war with China. Certainly not with Russia. I just think they're like the king of the trolls right now, and they know it gets our guff up when they do something on the cyber front or they do something in Crimea. No one's ever going to create a red line that we actually cross or that they actually cross for a vice versa. But it's just such a waste of funding when you look at everything that we've talked about from this summer with Black Lives Matter and talking about how can we reform the United States in general, just beyond race, how to make it a more educational, country and a prosperous country. And we look what we spend on the military, and like, we're not going against conventional nations. We're going against individuals with like maybe 2 magazines, an AK, and then somebody in their family knows how to create an IED. And like, you just get groups of those that we've been fighting now for 18 years in Afghanistan.
Yeah, but I mean, defense stock, my budget, my retirement funds. I'm doing well with retirement funds.
Yeah, I'm shitting on your employment right now, so I can understand if you would be against that, especially when, I mean, my education is being paid by tax dollars, so I really can't say anything either.
Yeah, I was like, was talking with my one buddy. We like did the math. Apparently, there's only 100 something general surgeons in the entire army right now. And then we were just talking about like how in the military, physicians face a huge, like, just the military in general faces a huge retention issue with physicians in the military, especially like surgeons, because like you talk about like surgeons, civilian side, like the average general surgeon in America makes like 350,000 a year, whereas in the military, you're still being paid like $200,000 ish a year through the military. But I mean, like compared to what you would be making on the civilian side, like it's like a pittance of what you could be making. So it's like,
Yeah.
why? And you think about how many surgeons there are. Like, why can't the military do better to like entice more, I guess, needed positions or needed people, or to retain skills and better retention for better retention for retaining talent better.
Well, so here's a conversation that we can have about retention. We've talked previously about how the 75th has a huge retention problem with junior officers. When you were in 375, like how many of the junior captains got out either before command or did command and got out, or just got out after their PLXO time. 175 was no different. I think like I would say 80% of the individuals that I served with as a PL there are out of the Army right now. But you look across the board and you talk about surgeons specifically, I feel like the Army keeps moving or will eventually move to this like contractor model where we outsource jobs that have traditionally been filled by soldiers. In Afghanistan, the mechanics over there that are doing work on MATVs, MRAPs, predominantly the ones that I've met are all contractors. The guys working on our strikers, contractors. Surely the Army has invested enough in our mechanics to be able to work on these systems. The individuals flying the drones in Afghanistan, a lot of them contractors. I've gone to the hospital before and you see civilian docs working in there in the ER whenever you have to report that are like contracted out. So do you think we're going to start shifting away from, saying we have to have a soldier fill this billet to a much larger kind of contract free roam, a la carte service?
Well, that's actually becoming a reality for medicine. I think like a couple years ago, they announced the new DHA, that like Defense Health Agency initiative, where they're trying to downsize or shifting funds in the military's healthcare, because at the end of the day, like, why would the military employ like an active duty physician in something like, like peds geneticist or some like weird special subspecialty, like why should would the military pay for this person to get trained in something that ultimately doesn't, affect warfighting and supporting a warfighting force? So there's already talks about that in the healthcare side in terms of shifting more towards a contractor for stateside. So like, for your beneficiaries, your retirees, having like a contracted workforce of physicians and nurses that are take care specifically of stateside, and then shifting the military's budget and supporting like active duty physicians that would deploy. So things like surgeons, emergency medicine, anesthesiologists, orthopedics, things like that would directly support, warfighting functions. But so it's like a huge buzz right now in like the in the HPSP, it's like the scholarship realm, because a lot of these like a lot of these young like med students who sign the contract to join the military, were told that they can be, that the military healthcare system, they can do whatever they want. And, at the end of the day, whether or not you're a doctor or, 11 Bravo, you're just a cog in the machine, and you're just there to fill a purpose. And if you aren't filling the purpose, then, there's no need for you in the military anymore.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. We talk about being a cog, and if you're useless, a superfluous element of that machine, we should be efficient enough to get rid of it. But I never saw that in the military. In every single brigade that I was in, you always had all this excess when it comes to positions or when it came to equipment. If you had to contract out, we might be able to say like whole branches of the military, but specifically in the Army, what would you think would be a branch or an MOS you could easily contract out and the Army would be like at no loss to get rid of its position?
I think you're talking about like logisticians or like support staff, like, like the cooks. You can tell, cooks, like logisticians, transporters, like you could easily, contract out like all of the support to like move like weapons, like munition and material, which already do that with like the GS levels at every like base, like all the like even like PCSing this last year, like it was all civilians that managed my PCS move. Like I don't know what the military, what MOSs would do that, like, forward or whatever. But even then, if you're forward, you can still have contractors forward too.
Yeah. So cooks I could see, especially given some of the food that I've tasted in defects around the Army.
Oh, I will say that I had Madigan, the dining hall in Madigan on Christmas Day. It's actually pretty good. They have prime rib. This is the first time I ate in the cafeteria, and it's actually pretty good. So I'll shout out to Madigan.
Best food I've had in the Army has always been deployed, and it's always contracted workers from like Bangladesh who like make phenomenal food. And then I look over at the cook that's deployed, not making any food, and like just go back there and just watch what they do. Watch how he makes the eggs over easy. Like that's how you make an egg. Like he's good at his job. You are not. How do you suck at making an egg, sir? Like this is your one task. And then getting like some cold egg mix when we're out in the field, like that's infuriating. So, okay, cooks, I would say S1 personnel. For the amount of times I've had my records completely jacked up, it's infuriating. And I would say this, the higher you get in rank or the more seniority you have in an organization, you can kind of get away with stuff like that and get it fixed real easily because you'll make friends with the S1 or, the adjutant, and they can go into the system. But for 99% of that formation who will not ever have that relationship or that opportunity, like that's why it needs to be addressed, because I've had too many soldiers and Rangers who have had their stuff missing, losing like CIB awards after a deployment, like an entire battalion's worth of awards was lost because some idiot, like, and this wasn't in regiment, but some idiot soldier like lost the 2 CDs that the files were on, and that was the only backup that they had. So he came back from Afghanistan and people were like, where are the hard copies of the awards? And like, thank God we told people, like, hold on to your hard copies, scan them as soon as you get home, download an app. Like that's the kind of stuff that I just find real intolerable. Like I don't understand how if you have like one job, because I never sucked. I sucked at certain parts of my job for sure, and I got better, but I don't think I've ever sucked consistently as much as I've seen some of the MOSs and branches in the Army. And you're just like, there's a professionalism aspect that if you're not going to meet my level, what I do in the military, like I have a really hard time communicating with you in a very respectful manner that doesn't clearly show how disappointed and angry I am with your commitment to your profession.
Yeah, funny that you mentioned that. Like, I 100% agree with the whole like being good at your job, and if you're not good at your job, like, what are you doing? I had like multiple issues in the hospital with some of the nursing staff, where it was like they just, some of the nurses just either through a combination of inexperience and like incompetence, or just flat out, negligence sometimes, where it's just like I don't understand like why you're so bad at your job. And then like when I've like had to correct nurses, um, I had to like I've actually gotten like yelled at, or not yelled at, but like had to get sit down by like some of the nursing supervisors because I was a little too harsh on my corrections of the nursing staff. But it's like you just have to. It's just like I even told the nursing like the nursing supervisors. I was like, listen, like I have a high expectation for people that are one, in healthcare, and then two, like in the military, because, if you're not, I just have a high expectation of you being able to do your job. And if you're not doing your job and you can't be coachable, then what are you doing, whether or not in any professional field, that's like the cornerstone of being a professional, is that you're able to, one, maintain the standards, two, uphold the standards, and then three, be able to, be coachable and get better.
Yeah, and it's preparation too. You've mentioned before how much like you study in your off time, and like that's what's expected of not only a soldier but definitely a surgeon in the military. And if we were to take like some of the experiences that we've had with individuals that don't show up prepared, it would be akin to you going into a surgery not knowing if you were doing an amputation on a leg, on an arm, if you were doing like open heart surgery. I mean, like a dude showed up to a company live fire event that I planned, and he came into the talk asking for products for the lane. You're like, dude, this is like your one evaluation in front of the brigade commander certifying you to go to Afghanistan. You don't have those products readily available. And not only did you skip going to the battalion talk, you thought comfortable, and you were comfortable enough to come to the brigade talk and show your face in front of all the headquarters and ask for that. Like, how can you go and comfortably or safely go and execute a company live fire? And it was a relatively complex live fire. Like I tried to make it as much like the one we did in regiment as possible. And thank goodness, like Carson approved almost all of it. But like, I couldn't imagine showing up to a live fire event and not having products ready to go review and brief. Like that's just, it's pathetic.
Yeah, it's like the basic like cornerstone of being a professional is that you care about what you're doing and show up prepared. Like it's like you're saying, like I would never show up to the OR without having a good plan of what I'm doing and like the steps of what I'm doing. Same thing like military. Like if you can't expect to show up on, can't expect to show up at Ranger School running like a 40-minute 5 mile and expect to do well. Like you have to put in the time and the effort to ensure your success by putting in the steps, doing the studying, putting in the time and the effort to ensure future success.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of success, we can kind of, here comes my first sergeant major, company commander, battalion commander, dovetail that comment. After the like question and answer session that we did on Instagram the other day about, what's an appropriate time or a comfortable time that you'd want to go to a selection or ranger school with, a couple guys in group, some of our ranger buddies reached out to us. And like, if you were trying to go to ranger school with like really anything slower than a 36, 37-minute 5 mile, and same with selection, like it's going to be a tough, hard time for you. Hand release push-ups are a little bit different than the higher volume normal push-ups, and same with the knees to elbow. It's a different kind of training now. But if you're not going like essentially maxing an APFT, if you're not going and you could just comfortably run that 35 to 37, standing on your feet for a day and a half, 2 days before the event, running to different things, having a heightened a heart rate for an extended period of time because you're stressed and nervous going into those events, like you're gonna expend way more energy than is necessary and probably end up being a lot slower than you anticipated training for, and probably fail out when it comes to some of the physical requirements, especially when you look at SFAS and you're running on sand and trails. You're not running on a hard packed earth, at Ranger School. So like, I think when it comes to fitness, a lot of questions always come our way. What's that optimal score that I need? And I think we've said it, pretty clearly over the last couple of years, but again, sub 13 minute on your 2 mile, pretty easy, and a 35 to 37 minute 5 mile, like at a minimum.
Yeah, I think it's also like a mentality thing, because I think when people ask that question, they think about like, what is the, what is the bare minimum? Like, what is the least amount of work that I can do to ensure that I have success? I think that's basically what that question comes down, like what they're trying to say. And then like, I feel like I hate when we get these questions. They're like, oh, what should I do? Like, what should my goals be? It's like, you should, your goal should be to be the fastest you can be, the strongest you can be, and be in the best possible shape you can be. The numbers that are associated with that, you'll get these numbers regardless of what, of how much of what you do. But, it's just like a mindset thing where it doesn't matter like what the bare minimum should be. You should not even think about that. You should be thinking about being in the best possible condition and putting yourself in the best shape and set yourself in the best condition, like setting yourself up for the best, possible outcome that you can be training up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when I went to Ranger School, I was running a 32:30 on my 5 mile, knocking out 85 to 90 push-ups, same amount of sit-ups, and my 2 mile was like a 12:20. And because I was in that kind of fitness, and my 12 mile ruck was like a 2:30 to 2:45. And because of that, when I got to the 5 mile, I essentially jogged like a 38-minute because I knew exactly how much.
All right, sorry about that little technical difficulty, guys. Sorry about the technical difficulties. We're back in, but we're talking about how you at Ranger School, you were running like a 12:32 mile, and then during the 5 mile itself, you like were jogging. You jogged a 38 5 mile essentially.
Yeah, I jogged like a 38-minute 5 mile. And then even looking at the 12 mile, the first 4 to 5 miles I did in front of the pace truck. And I had RIs telling me, like, you're going to bust time. You're not going to make time. It's like, well, everyone's wearing a watch. I know exactly what my pace is for each one of these miles. I'm not worried about busting time because I wanted to finish like at 2:55 to 2:59, something. I'm not trying to, break the land speed record at school. And I'm certainly not going to finish a sub 2:20 and burn myself out knowing that, we still got, I think, the Derby Queen the next day or 2 days later when we went out. Was it Camp McCall?
No.
No.
Camp Darby.
Derby. Yeah, Derby. Sorry. Knowing that.
Bragg.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Knowing that we still had that to go through. I was like, it'd be silly to waste any energy on this going forward. I mean, that was like my thing. I wanted to go in such good shape that I could pace at a slow rate and still pass all the Ranger standards.
Yeah, but that's like the point that I was trying to make, is that and you're trained up to go to Ranger School, you gave yourself like the best, you set yourself up for success by training as hard as you could and being in the best shape that you could possibly be in. Because like at Ranger School, like that's 100% correct. Like I did the same exact thing where like, I passed the RPFT because I just did what I needed to do to pass it. Just passed the the rush because I only needed to do like what I needed to pass it, because at the end of the day, like rap week is just checking the box to make sure that you're physically fit enough to even go through school. And I think a lot of people fall into the trap of like you have to like do well during rap week, but at the same time it's like rap week is just like a basic assessment to see if you did the homework, you put in the time in to be even qualified, or you should even be able to go to school.
Yeah, it's like really simple stuff too when you look at it in the long run. And then as you progress through your fitness career, and hopefully you find programming that is something that you're going to maintain for years to follow, running that 35 or 37-minute 5 mile becomes pretty standard. And once you figure out how many steps you're taking per minute, what your breathing sounds like, what that heart rate kind of sounds like, you'll be able to essentially run for, I would say, almost a half marathon at that RPFT pace. That was always my goal, was my running should not only be at the point where I can go and run 5 miles in under 40 minutes. I should be able to wake up and almost on any single day that I'm serving, be able to run a half marathon and not feel like I've just died. I feel like that the half marathon standard for your base level conditioning is a pretty appropriate test to see if you really have what it takes to consistently, put that level of effort out in a soft branch.
Yeah. But I think it just comes like what we're just trying to say is that, you once you have and put the time in and put the effort in to ensure your success, once you have put in that effort, it's very easy just to maintain that effort. It's harder to get in shape than to stay in shape.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's how I feel right now. We had a question that someone had about heart rate training and zone training. And I had said, and I don't know if you agree or not necessarily on this, but if for anything under, definitely for 10K and under, I would not recommend doing heart rate or zone training. Maybe with a half marathon, but even still then, I don't think doing heart rate training is really effective. I would say anything beyond half marathon and up, heart rate training is an effective way, not only to maximize your time, but to be efficient with your energy. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, like for like a 10K, you're talking about like 45, 50 minutes max. I'm sure like the best way to like improve your VO2 max is through like heart rate training and threshold training. So I think that, it could be a valid method of trying to do it, of training and keeping ourselves at like certain training goals. I think it's okay to do it. Um, I don't know. I mean, I think you could do it, and probably be fine doing it, but you probably do the same thing. You probably get the same thing of just doing like a standard running program without doing like all the heart rate stuff.
Yeah, every 10K program and half marathon program that I've ever done, it has never been based off of like a perceived zone or level of exertion. It's just been like, if this is your goal pace for the race, this is what you need to be hitting on each one of these intervals that we've prescribed.
Mm-hmm.
And in general, for the bulk of individuals that follow these programs, they'll finish the race in that time because it's one of those gut check things. It's like running an 800. It's not quite a sprint, but it's definitely not something you're going to get into a comfortable zone with. And when you look at a 10K, like sub 40 is what everyone I think shoots for or should shoot for, because it's a very fast run. But if you can break 40, that's huge. But that was always a distance that I never thought, like, what I need to spend 3 to 4 months doing is like heart rate training. It's like, well, I'll just spend 3 to 4 months brutalizing my body, trying to maintain these intervals and throwing up occasionally, and probably get there just as easily without any kind of aggravation. Looking down month one going, I have to run a 9-minute pace because that's zone 3 and I can't tap out beyond that. Like that's why I'm against the heart rate training for that kind of duration of a run, because it just takes so long to build your max and to start dropping the time to where you'd see like really fast paces.
Yeah. I mean, something to be said about like the reason why you do heart rate training versus like the reason why you like train for like a 10K. Definitely like in the longer distances when you're trying to increase your VO2 max and your ability to, process and your energy systems, is probably more effective for that kind of zone or that, realm of training. But in that like shorter, more aerobic but still kind of anaerobic threshold pace, you can probably get away with not being as like anal about your heart rates.
Yeah, that's for sure. And especially too when it comes to some of the training programs, the last Ironman prep that I did, like it like had a combination of two things. It'd be like, hey, you have a 2-mile warm up on today's run. You should stay in like zone 2 for that. But then whenever it would prescribe like a rest pace, it would be a zone 2 pace, but not necessarily require me to be in zone 2. Because if I had to go all the way to zone 2 when I'm like doing intervals in zone 4 to like the lower parts of 5, I'd have to almost completely stop or go to a walk for a 5-minute period, which is definitely not the intent of a workout, because you want to keep moving. So a lot of times in some of the programs, if you're following out there, you'll see your your heart rate that you're supposed to target, as I'm pinching this bore in my background, is also going to be a reflection of a pace that you have connected to like what your threshold is. So that is, you know, some of the saving graces for me, at least when I train, even for longer distance. It's knowing that like, okay, I'm in my like rest phase right now, but my heart rate can be slightly higher because I just need to maintain like a 9-10 pace on my, you know, 3 to 5 minute cool down areas.
No, and that's like but that's like a kind of a distinction that you will develop over time as you like get more, I think, comfortable with endurance training. That kind of training is that you just get better at understanding your body, and I think that's what heart rate training is very good for. Is that like it kind of teaches you like how the certain paces and your body's ability to maintain certain energy levels and thresholds, which I think is like the same thing why, you know, I talk about like the whoop strap. It's just like a different way of teaching your body and teaching yourself of how to like manage your own body's recovery and training.
Yeah, I like in the peak of the summer, I almost didn't even need to look at my watch to know what zone I was in because
you just
I'd
know how
gotten
it
so
feels.
accustomed. Yeah. You'd be like, as I start going up some of the small hills in Central Park, like, ah, crap. Like I can feel my chest starting to tighten up. I have to be like 4-1 right now. And then you get to the top of it and you're like, all right, I need to take like 30 seconds of almost stationary jogging so I can drop this. So I really can stay in like a zone 2 for 45 minutes straight or an hour and a half straight. Like, it's really fun. I find it fun to listen to your body, especially now because I'm old.
Yeah. And that's like I think that's, like I said, the huge benefit to heart rate zone training is that you learn like this is a pace that you should be able to hold for like, you know, a marathon, or this is a pace that you should be able to hold for like a 10K or like a 1 mile, like this is your threshold, your interval threshold, shit like that.
Yeah. I would say equipment's really important too. Someone hit us up and we had some back and forth of like, you know, what kind of belt we recommend for like CrossFit-y, Cronus Fit, functional fitness training. Like I've always had like a Nike, like the nylon weightlifting belt.
Yeah.
You have the Rogue One. You know, like having the right equipment. I just upgraded my Hokas. I had the Mach 2s, which were more of like a responsive sole to now more of a balanced sole, so that I'm not trying to run for pace. I need something that is not going to destroy my knees after 2+3 hours, you know, every couple of days. So you have to do some bit of research, I think, to find exactly what works for you, and what works for you might not work for others. I mean, like you had guys back in RTC and up at West Point that loved the Nike combat boots. I couldn't stand the Nike boots. I thought like they were super flimsy. There was no support. You could run for days in them because they were essentially the Nike Freeze with an 8-inch side, but you know, they're not a good boot. I did one fast rope in them and completely destroyed the sole of the shoe.
Yeah, I think, and that's like I think a trap that people get fall into also, because it's like people try to optimize or find the easiest way to like optimize their chances of success, and that's like an easy way that you can like try and like get an easy edge is like, you know, having the best swag, best gear to like, you know, ensure that without putting like the effort in, but at the same time they're like, you know, the gear and like that stuff is like a small fraction of like your performance, you know. At the end of the day, like it doesn't really matter like what shoe is going to be the best. Like you're talking about like 1-2% like performance like improvement based on like your gear. At the end of the day, like what really ensures your success is like what, you know, putting the time in and putting the effort in, and that's sweat equity.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you can take what Bobby just said. You can apply it to almost everything in the military, or whatever environment you're in. I mean, how many guys are those gear hoarders that they see a soft dude wearing, you know, like a belt, so they have to go buy that belt. They see them, you know, with a mag drop pouch, you know, attached to their hip, and they got to go purchase that. It's like, well, do you really need that? Or are you doing a ton of shooting? Are you ever going to be in an environment where that's going to come in handy, that you have to put stuff in there? You'll see guys take chem lights, like, you know, the guys in regiment had on their kit for when they were doing different types of aspects of the mission. And I see guys in the conventional army start throwing chem lights on their kit, not knowing what those chem lights are supposed to be used for, what kind of signaling that they might impact a mission with. It's just stuff like that. Like, just focus on yourself, essentially, is what I'm trying to say when you're working out, whatever unit or environment you're in, and figure out if like someone else's gear that they're using that's making them successful is truly for you, and it's not something that you're just using because you've not done their research.
Yeah, it's like Louis Simmons quote. It's like, don't have $100 shoes for a 50-cent squat. I actually saw a pretty funny meme. I think yesterday or the day before, of like one of the military meme pages that like posted a meme that was like a fat dude in like Gucci gear, and it's like, you can't have Gucci gear and be fat, because at the end of the day you can't perform anyways. Like, what's the point of spending all that money on Gucci gear when you can't even run like a 2-mile? So it's just like the same idea was that, don't spend time and effort on making yourself look good when you can't, back up that claim. If that makes sense.
So you said Gucci gear, and I thought you literally meant Gucci.
No.
So I immediately thought like, wow, we're gonna have like Rick Ross and DJ Khaled like suing the podcast because they feel, offended by
Gucci kid,
fat
Gucci gear.
Gucci. So now I understand Gucci is also a term of I don't know, cool or trendy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like you would say that cries are Gucci. You got the Gucci gear. You got the cries. You got the cry like vest. You got the cry play carrier. That's like the Gucci.
Okay. So yeah, I feel like I've used the term like Patagucci before to describe Patagonia stuff. Yes. See, okay, I'm not that out of loop with
God damn it.
with what the cool kids are saying. You know what it is? I've not been able to take in class, in-person classes, so I'm missing that. You can see I've been negatively impacted by the lockdowns here in the city because I can't interact with my classmates and stay hip. It's like taking a devastating toll on me, man. I can't even watch Teen Mom anymore because I don't understand half the things that they're saying.
You're just aging. You're aging exponentially in isolation.
I am. Alyssa and I have started playing backgammon. I got her and me a backgammon set for Christmas, and it's like, it is a ton of fun. I taught her how to play backgammon, and I've lost every game now since, which is like real disappointing because I thought it would be much harder to pick up, and she has picked it up, rolled better than I have, and we have a scoreboard on our door, and she's just housing me right now. So I guess that's where I am in my life. I love reading in bed, and I love playing board games and card games.
Yeah, I don't know how to play backgammon. But anyways, the point that I think we were trying to drive at is that, you got to put the time in, put the effort in, and then like you can't. There are no shortcuts to success besides putting in the time and the effort. And you're only fooling yourself by thinking that if you spend, if you're just looking for the bare minimum, you're only, fooling yourself. Or if you're looking to buy your way, or looking for shortcuts, it's not going to work out for you.
Yeah, and that goes for you influencers out there as well. Don't buy your followers. Earn those followers. Earn the 1.1 million on your blue check mark.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, can we get a blue check mark? I feel like we deserve one.
I've tried.
I don't think
I've tried. I don't think Instagram is real into it.
I think that we should have a blue check mark for sure. I mean, we're certified. I've certified us whenever we post. You've certified us. I don't think we've been hacked. And we're influencers now.
Essentially. I always get a little embarrassed at work when do you ever get like embarrassed in everyday life a little bit when people like bring up Cronus Fit and like randomly?
Fortunately, I go to school with a bunch of dudes and dudettes who have a problem like picking up their pencil bag. So I'm not surrounded by individuals who would have the slightest notion of what Cronus Fit is.
Yeah, I don't know why, but like sometimes I'll get like a little embarrassed that people like will say something to me about like Cronus Fit. I don't know. It's kind of a weird. I don't know why I have like this sentiment, but it's like I just feel a little weird, embarrassed, and people like recognize me or like ask me about Cronus Fit or ask me about fitness. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I could see where that might be weird being on like I would feel weird at this point if I was back on a military post, especially if I was working out in like a military gym, because uh, you'll run into somebody that knows what Cronus Fit. Well, it wasn't like when we started this back in 2017 where
Yeah.
like a rando at Carson would know what was going on. And that was only because they were in the unit with me or with you. And it's just like, it's very cool that people follow the programming. When we first started off, some history here, like I remember you and I were looking at each other's workouts like every single day. And like, what program are you taking out and releasing tomorrow? Or what's the next program that we've got on deck, like after this 20-weeker? And it's to the point now, between the stuff that we've got going on with Cronus Fit, where sometimes like I haven't even seen the workout that you've posted for a day. And then I'm finding myself like scrolling through Instagram, figuring out like, okay, where are these guys at? 'Cause someone's asked a question about this program specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Or they ask a question about, I think we're really lucky. We have probably something like 20 programs available on the website, which I'll get to in a second too, because this is something that's really annoying me. So it's like, it's really cool that people are investing in the programs, but it's like, we get like a couple dozen messages a day. And between staying on top of that, staying on top of the emails, talking with the sponsor, like you get a lot of time taken away from what we used to be able to do and handle on a daily basis. So that's been the one change for me that I've noticed. But really quickly onto the website thing, we get so many questions, and clearly the people that are asking us probably don't listen to this podcast either. Like, just go to the website, like cronusfit.org. There's a really easy method to follow for free programs, the ones that are available online that we post daily, and then the actual programs that are available for free. There's so many questions that we get that you're like, we have a website, it's in our handle, like 2 seconds on the website, you'd find all of these programs. And then you can ask us specifically about the program. Like, is this the best program for me? But just starting off the bat cold, like, hey, do you think a program like this would work? Or do you have a program like this? It's like, just go to the website, man. Like, or gal, it's like, it's like right there.
Yeah, I think that's a great like screener already for like whether or not you'll make it or if you have success in the future. If you can put like take the 5 minutes to do some research into like whether or not do like some basic research and basic homework. Like if you do that versus people that just immediately ask for help, I think that goes a lot and says something about like your personality type and your ability to achieve success in the future, because people that are self-sufficient, that are able to do the homework and like put the time in to like learn about something are going to be the same type of people that put in the time and the effort that ensures our future success. So I think that's a great kind of like a screener tool for like if someone like, not to like highlight anybody, but like people that always DM us about like what does this mean, or like what why, like what does this mean for workouts. Like, listen, like there's a website with FAQs on it. You can literally Google all the exercises too. Like you don't have to ask me like what this exercise is. You can literally Google it. And it's not like meant to be like a gotcha moment. Like it's just like, just put the time in and like do some, like it might be a little inconvenient to like have to like Google something, but
right.
It's better. It'll be better for you if you like Google something and do some your own homework and research.
Yeah. And we've followed programs before. Like I've done at least 2 or 3 cycles of Catalyst Athletics Olympic lifting programming, and there's tons of stuff that they have for technique work that I have zero idea what it meant before I started the program. And it's like, one, it's on their website. They have YouTube tutorials for a lot of it, and 2, if they don't, like YouTube has it. Like there are a ton of people out there that are hustling every day that create websites that are geared towards just explaining basic movements. Like real appropriate questions, and not, again, I'm not sounding like I'm ungrateful for people being interested in our programs, but like a really good question would be, I'm interested in getting faster. I notice you have a running program. I also notice you have like the 175 program or the Ranger School program available for free. Is there a significant difference? What is the difference? And then kind of explaining why one is for cost and one is free. It's, that's the kind of stuff that we'll always be able to answer. And the same answer will always kind of apply, at least from the military prep side of the house. Like you'll get a little bit more fine-tuned training under the paid military prep programs. But for the most part, our motto has always been fitness should be free. So we're not going to hide like an actual thing that's going to make you uber successful in a paid, behind a $20 wall. Just like, the Ranger School guide and the SFAS guide, like all that stuff's free. Like, running programs slightly differ here and there, but for the most part, like you could follow either, any kind of one of our free programs consistently, never purchasing a single program, and generally get infinitely more fit. So don't expect like we're hiding the 8 ball, from you, as part of like a ploy or a gimmick that we've, adhered to for 3 years.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we want to see people succeed and to give back to both military and to society. And the fitter you are, the more, more resilient you are. I think the better member of society and the better person you can be, the better, we all become.
And better looking.
Definitely better looking.
I'm vain. I love looking at good looking people. I want to see more of them. I don't want to go to the beach and be the sexiest person there, but I am. I'll die on that cross if I have to. But there should be other people that are just as good looking.
I think we'll start wrapping it up. Anything else you want to talk about?
Sorry for the technical delays that I had earlier. If you hear, if part of this podcast is me just grumbling about my internet here in New York City, please bear with me there. But briefly talk about the next Ranger School prep that's coming up in February. We're going to move to some much more defined strength movements to kind of go in line with what the ACFT program provides, but what's going to be tested specifically now at Ranger School with the hand release push-ups, with the knees to elbow, and how that kind of generally affects, fitness and training for it, unlike individuals that kind of went through school circa 2019 and earlier. So look for that. That'll come out in February, and that'll be a good, 16 to 20 week program that we'll kick off and head into spring with.
Yeah, as far as programming from my end goes, I am kind of working on writing like a year-long base building program because, I think that's a super common question that we always get asked is like, hey, what program should I do if I'm not, actively prepping for a school or selection? And it's like, you should be doing some kind of base building program where, whether it's just like the military prep or a functional fitness, they're both all good daily, base building programs that aren't exactly, ramping you up for something or anything like that. So that's like on my to-do list is to write like a year-long program, because we have the 6-month like Get Yo 2.0, which I think is a pretty good, like a really good base building program. But like I kind of want to write something for a year long that guys can run like year after year after year and still get great gains from it.
Yeah, and you could run it for probably 2 to 3 years before starting to see like, oh my God, I'm back in April again. I remember April from last year sucking.
Yeah. So like, and that's like, I think the kind of the beauty of kind of some of the programs that we do is that there's enough variety and enough variability in what we do that, you'll still get some stuff out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, check out the nutrition stuff. I think we've gotten a lot of good feedback for the personalized nutrition and coaching through James. We've actually, had 2 guys that signed on for 1 month and then have canceled their subscriptions because they hit their goals already after 1 month of coaching. So, that's a great testament to James because, all you guys pay for the month for a subscription per month. So like if you're able to hit your goals after 1 month, after like one-on-one personal coaching, and we're not like trying to string you along to keep getting money from you guys, I think it's a great testament to James's expertise and ability to get you where you need to be. So if you have any questions about your nutrition, your training, your recovery, sign up for the personalized nutrition coaching. I think it's a great resource and great capability to add to your knowledge base and your physical and your fitness regimen.
Oh yeah.
I think that's it as far as updates or any announcements.
Oh yeah. Don't buy Tesla. Don't
Tesla.
wear Lululemon.
Tesla to the moon.
Wear 10,000. Don't see the movie Mulan. It was so trash.
Oh, I heard Wonder Woman 84 was trash as well.
Oh, I did too. Sorry that we haven't signed off yet. I heard Wonder Woman 84 was complete garbage.
I heard it's
and
garbage as well.
they've already greenlit like Wonder Woman 3 or something, or they're trying to fast track it with Patty Jenkins. Like, yeah, I don't think I'll see Wonder Woman unless it's free. Like that.
Yeah.
I heard, and I love Pedro Pascal. Like, he's one of my favorite actors, but I heard the plot was stupid and gimmicky, and so I'm speaking out of my ass because I haven't seen it. But yeah, I don't intend to see it now.
Oh, what about Mandalorian? Have you finished Mandalorian season 2 yet?
I did. Yeah. Have you?
Yes.
Okay. I thought it was really dumb. Yeah. I thought
spoilers.
Yeah. I can't believe Han Solo rescued Baby Grogu. And that
What?
Snoke was the bad. Just kidding.
I was like, what the fuck are you?
I don't like that Luke Skywalker. One, Grogu's dead now. I'm convinced of it that Kylo Ren killed Grogu at the new Jedi Temple. But I think it should have been that redheaded nerd from the Star Wars video games. He was like one of the like Jedi that escaped or something the temple when Order 66 happened, and he's been kind of like free roaming. Like, I think he should have rescued Grogu because they had like a bond. But Luke Skywalker rescuing him, that was lazy. It's trash.
It's a little bit lazy. I didn't really like that second to last episode where they're like driving the dreadnoughts or whatever with the like the explosives and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
And he's in there like murking all like the local nationals that like, you know, are rebelling against the empire.
Yeah, so, like you're helping the wrong guys here.
Yeah, like I get like what they're trying to do, but I don't like how they set up that like that episode, because it's like, you know, I feel like the Mandalorian would like at the end of the day he like only wants to complete the mission, but at the same time they'll like, you know, kind of makes you question his like ethics if he's like has no qualms about fucking these like local nationals up and like blowing them up and shit.
Yeah, not just like murking them, but like killing them, like everyone, and then everyone. Well, that and like essentially allowing all of the random Empire soldiers to die, just like killing them, and like I thought that was a bit weird. There was a call to have the chick that was from Alderaan that we find out.
Yeah.
I think she was in the Fast 5 or one of the Fast movies. They wanted her kicked off because I think she's a Trumper. And so there was like these petitions online just get me. Like, I'm sure if we started a petition tomorrow, we could have however many tens of thousands of signatures. And then someone says on the news, like, this petition generated 70,000 signatures to remove her from The Mandalorian. Like, shut up. Like, that's such a waste of a click. Yeah, such a waste of like your time.
She was like a Ronda Rousey because she fought in the MMA, or she fought in the UFC, I want to say, and was like an MMA fighter, and then went and like joined and did like Senate, like became an actress, kind of like Ronda Rousey. R.I.P. to Ronda Rousey's career.
Oh yeah, she went to WWE and she had a clause that said like she could not lose. Speaking of WWE, Sasha Banks was in The Mandalorian as one of the Mandalore fighters with Bo-Katan. I thought that was a really dumb storyline.
I liked the Bo-Katan storyline. Although Darksaber storyline was kind of weird. I was like, I don't really get this.
Yeah, I do. Who gives a shit? Yeah. I think they should have killed Moff Gideon. Really disappointed by the robots, essentially. The
Dark Knight. What the fuck was that?
It's like watching Clone Wars again. Like, come on, Jon Favreau. Like, I think we can do better than this. You could have like enhanced, some random dude to have some metachlorians or some, as Milan would call it, chi. If we really bring all the Disney characters together.
Yeah, but I think that's what they were trying to do with Grogan, was to like draw his blood and the midichlorians to like make their like hybrid, Empire soldiers. But yeah, the whole like Dark Knight, the Dark Trooper thing, I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. Like, literally, it makes no sense.
Yeah, and I don't know. Boba Fett was pretty cool. I don't know why Boba Fett didn't stick around. I wish he had come back. I thought he would have, instead of just, splitting and not paying for the check. All in all, season 2 was okay.
Yeah, I like season 1 much better.
Yeah, like the droid bounty hunter that
Yeah.
like goes out like guns blazing. That's a badass bounty droid. That's what I want to see more of. I wish we could see more of the like the AT-ATs.
Mhm.
That's the kind of stuff that I find really interesting. Is some of this like backstory shit I do not care about.
No, I
Um,
agree.
just give me more Pedro Pascal. Like taking his helmet off was cool. Um, like that's the kind of stuff, or just like really violence. I think Star Wars should head in the direction of Rogue One. Rogue One was great. It had some dark moments. It was pretty violent. Um, it wasn't like very Disney-esque, I think, in looking back at the last trilogy that they just botched.
Mhm.
For instance, the FN 2417 or whatever the hell Finn.
Finn.
Like he goes out and the dude gets shot and he puts his hand on Finn's helmet and leaves like a big bloody handprint. That's literally all the blood that's in all the Star Wars movies. So like why don't you see that in any other scene? Like when someone gets sliced in half, don't tell me it's been like automatically cauterized, but like, or when someone gets shot with a bolt or a laser, like why is there not more blood? Why is that the only time we see blood in all the Star Wars universe? That's why you're trash, Disney. Like now I'm ranting against Disney. Down with Disney stock. Like that's just the kind of stuff that I would hope to see, and why I watch Peaky Blinders now.
Yeah, it's just like what was I gonna say? Peaky Blinders is dope. I haven't watched the new season yet. I've been watching Twin Peaks a lot. Started watching Twin Peaks with Christina.
Yeah, I didn't get into. I had to watch Queen's Gambit between like Thanksgiving and
Uh-huh.
now because the last one we were home for Thanksgiving, my parents started watching it. It's just like one of those. It's like The Crown. I don't know how
Decent.
my parents get into watching these like melodramas. It's like between watching melodramas and like murder porn on like A&E or the Discovery Network. Like I don't know. I never want to be like that when I'm like I don't want to have to call my kids up and be like, hey, your mom and I watched a really interesting show last night. 3 people were murdered or buried in their neighbor's backyard, and it turns out it was the mailman. Like that is so uninteresting to me. I will never be interested in that kind of crap.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all my
The
parents
true
fucking
crime,
watch.
yeah. Yeah, what was I listening to? Or like maybe it was Andrew Schultz was like talking shit about how women love like murder mysteries. How like basic women like love murder mysteries. Did you hear that? I don't know. I don't know if that's on his new special, if that was on his episode with Joe Rogan, but they were talking about that.
I mean, I get it. If you go to any like bookstore, half the what is it like Michael Peterson or something? There's always It's like I think women love
Like
murder
true
mysteries.
crime.
They love books set in World War II, where it's like women going up against the Nazis, women going against the communists, and in every single one of these books, like most of the women are killed, murdered, uh, like sexually assaulted and abused, and then at the end, like the one will get away, and then the whole evil empire collapses. Like it's this, it's like a really weird, sick, twisted world that we went from, like the John Cena-esque cover boy with long blonde hair for women's erotica novels to now it's like the woman that gets beat the fuck up and goes back and kills her captors. Like that's a weird arc that I feel like women's writing is on right now.
Okay.
I only know that because I've got those books are in the next room. Like I feel like I'm hearing the same storyline told over and over again.
I was gonna say, have you watched The Bachelor at this season?
Oh yeah, dude, we've got so. Why didn't we think about this before we signed off? We've not signed off yet.
Still haven't
Your
signed
boy
off.
got runner up.
Yeah, I'm kind of mixed feelings about it. For those that don't know, I am pretty good, I was pretty decent buddies with Ben Smith. We're on the strength team together. He was a year younger than me. We went to Ranger School together. We were in the same Ranger School platoon until he recycled mountains, and then kind of kept up over the years. But yeah, I'm kind of mixed. I don't really want to talk shit about Ben Smith because he's still a pretty good dude in my mind. But like the whole like Bachelorette thing, it's just like I don't know. I don't find it genuine. I'm sorry.
I'd say one, I really appreciate not once on that show did I ever hear him talk about the military, or talk about being Ranger qualified.
I thought you did.
Like, at least in the episodes that I saw, I think someone asked, like, yeah, I was in the military, and that was like his backstory. That was it.
Yeah.
There was never gloating about his service or deployment, like none of that. It was just, yeah, I went to West Point, and that was it. What I liked about this season of The Bachelorette was, one, Claire Crawley got, like, she self-eliminated herself by getting with a guy that I'm sure she was talking with before production started, because within 11 days they were like engaged. But yeah, Ben's character, I was surprised. I'm not friends with him, so I can say I was surprised how difficult it was for him to talk like an adult man. Like, and to express his feelings. And that's, I think a man or an adult man in today's society, like, you should be able to express your emotions. And when you're on a TV show like that, like, he had to show up was his, like, catchphrase for his, experiences on The Bachelorette. Like, I feel like you've done significantly harder things in your life than telling some social media influencer that you liked her or loved her. So for that reason, like, watching him as one of the finalists, hearing what he said to her parents, being like, why he loved Tayshia compared to what the dude from Haddonfield, New Jersey, let's go Bulldogs, for what he said to her, like, that's a 36-year-old articulate man who's gone through some awful things in his life and come out better on the other side. Compared to Ben, it's like, that dude should have been the front runner the entire season, but because he could not communicate, that was the most aggravating part of it. It's like, clearly had the best body, had the coolest backstory, at least from my perspective, being Ranger qualified, being pretty jacked, good looking. But the best you can come up with is, I've never felt like this about a woman, or a woman's never made me feel like this before. Like, okay, that's fine as an intro, but you better have some more substantive, like, hard-backed reasons why you're in love with someone. And so watching that, it was like, oh my God, this is like a train wreck. Like, exactly who she's going to pick, because unless she's completely vain and vapid, like, you're going to need some sort of, like, an actual character there. And I just didn't get any character from Ben all season.
Yeah, I haven't watched any of the episodes. I just know, like, secondarily from Christina watching it and telling me about what's been updating, the updates.
Yeah. Here's what I also don't like about the show. We didn't see any of them working out. Like, those guys stayed in shape while they were out there in Palm Springs. Why didn't we see their gym? Like, why didn't we see these guys messing around doing squats? I think Ben has like I've been on an Instagram. He has like a above 400-pound, like, double back squat.
Yeah, he's pretty strong,
Like,
dude. Yeah, he's strong at West Point
the dude
too.
can
Yeah.
squat, and he has great technique and stuff. I know he's like a fitness influencer, but, like, Bachelorette Nation, like, that should have been the stuff you were highlighting, and not the drama between the Harvard Chet and the Nashville Chad. Like, that was such a boring. I nearly turned off the season just because I was so bored. And now The Bachelor's back January 4th on ABC.
Who's the
which
Bachelor?
I know you're gonna watch. It's Matt something.
I hate that you know this.
But fuck you. He was friends with Tyler C. or Cameron.
Dude, I don't fucking know these people.
Yeah, I think it was Tyler C. from Hannah Brown season. It's like one of his best friends. I think they play football together or something, or they work for some nonprofit in New York City. But yeah, he's going to be the Bachelor, and I think they also went to like a remote giant mansion, like, to meet all the women, and the catchphrases are like, the women are unmatched. So I'll be interested to see that season. I always watch it because I'm like, you want to see people that, like, maybe you'd be interested in too. So it's like, are these people fit? Are they vain? Like, what is their social media presence? I think half these people just go on these shows just to try to increase their followers by 10 to 20,000.
That's 100% what it is. It's all fake. It's all like a social media popularity grab. Like, Ben Smith went from like 1,000 followers to 400,000 followers in this past year. Yeah.
Oh yeah, good on him. They talked about some dark shit. Like the guy who ended up winning had gone through rehab, I think, a couple times, and now he's an addiction specialist. Ben talked about his challenges with suicidal ideations. Like that's real stuff that they talked about. And so like earlier, my comment, like I don't understand how you can bring that kind of stuff up to a potential significant other, but you can't vocalize or tell them how you feel. Like it just didn't make sense. Like either you didn't really feel that way about that person, but you can't be that vulnerable to talk about such significant life-changing events, and not otherwise be able to say like I love you. Like that. That's why the show for me, the season seemed kind of fake and really empty of actual emotion.
I think it's all fake and empty of actual emotion. Just people that are trying to become famous.
It's also too like you've got one woman and 30 guys, and when those guys can't see any other woman on the show and all they're doing is competing with their time, like if you went down and tracked how much time the winner of the Bachelorette spent with Tayshia, it's probably like maybe 7 or 8 actual moments that they shared, and like some of those might have been like 10 to 12 hours, the very few of them, but the most of them were like a random cocktail party with 6 other guys for the duration of 7 hours, while each guy maybe got 40 minutes with her. And then after 6 weeks, you're going to potentially propose. Like, that's where I find it to be like, you're just made to fall in love with these people. You don't actually love them. It's like you go on deployment and, a home 4 looks like a deployment 10. Like, I think that's like that syndrome that these guys get or these gals get when they're on these shows.
It's probably a good sentiment. Also kind of sexist, but it's
hey,
fair.
I said Bachelor and Bachelorette. It's the same for the
fair.
For the girls. I mean, if you think like Colton Underwood was a catch and you were one of the chicks competing for him, like Tayshia was, like there's something wrong. That dude is a soft dude. Like he hopped an 8-foot fence. Okay, if that's an 8-foot fence, I'm 7.5 feet tall. Like, and you know what? While we're on this topic, the Bachelor and Bachelorette have done a really weird thing where they constantly get these like NFL players, except the NFL players are a bunch of practice squad dudes, like who are still chasing the dream. Good for you, but their bios are always NFL this, NFL that, and then you go and you look and you're like, dude, you're fucking practice squad. Like, talk to me when you're in the game, player. Like, I don't care that you are on an NFL team, but we get so many of these NFL dudes in there, like Colton, Matt, a couple dudes from this season are just like, okay, I get it. Like, some of you are athletic at whatever like college you went to. Like, give it up.
You just need to start a Bachelorette podcast. That's really what you need to do.
No, I defend too many of the basic bros and brodettes out there, but because I'm too real. My heart is not on my sleeve. I don't wear Supreme hats and overpriced gray sweatshirts. I do wear affordable gray sweatshirts. The Cronus Fit sweatshirt comes in all sizes, has a very nice stitched logo. It's currently available for $50. You can buy a Supreme one for like $900. Oh yeah, we're out of smalls, but all of our listeners are jacked anyway. You need a minimum of a large.
All right. I think my patience is gone after listening to you talk with the Bachelor for the last 10 minutes.
Because you're going to go watch the replay, right?
I made a terrible mistake bringing up the Bachelor. I made a terrible mistake.
Well, if you've been listening to us for the last 25 minutes, thanks for sticking around. And I'd say this is probably the meat of the podcast. We should probably front load this before any talk of Ranger School.
Yeah, definitely. The meat and potatoes is this week's podcast. With that, we will end it with that, guys. You guys have a enjoy the rest of the year. Have a happy new year, and we'll catch you guys later.
Peace.
Later.